Hi, I'm Amy Kennedy. I'm up here at the busway with Miss Cece at our neighborhood serviceberry patch. It's June 11th. It's a perfect day for picking serviceberries. We've had a couple days of hot weather and a nice overnight rain. So you can see this is just up the steps off Braddock Avenue. There's a walkway here if you can't go on the steps for whatever reason. And we're here picking serviceberries. Now, serviceberries are a great snack. They're a delicious sweet food. They're very similar to a blueberry. You can see from this branch, they're in different stages of ripening at this moment. These bright red ones are not yet ripe, and then we still have green ones that are even less ripe. But these dark purple ones are the ones that we're picking today because they're nice and sweet. Now, a key besides the color to knowing that they're ready to pick is that they should come off the stem really quite easily. So if you really have to tug at a berry to get it off the stem, that's a key that that berry isn't quite ripe yet, so anything that's that color isn't going to be ripe. So you try to stick with the ones that are as dark purple as you can. I guess the minus side is once they get a little overly ripe, they tend to dry out a little bit. So you're looking for the nice plump purple berries. And that way when you get home, you'll have sweet berries and you won't have as many stems to pick out of the berries themselves because the stems aren't really delicious to eat. They're just kind of woody in the way. So we'll pick enough berries here that I have some things to show you with about how to clean them. You'll notice on this is a shrub serviceberry, so there are some slightly different varieties of serviceberries. When we get back to my house, you'll see that I have a tree form of serviceberry, which looks a little bit different than this one. So I'm just going to spend a few minutes picking here so we have something at home to work with. So now we're back at my house. I wanted to show you the serviceberry tree in my front yard. You'll note it has a single trunk as opposed to the multi-trunk shrubs that are up at the busway. But otherwise, it's a very similar tree. It's probably a slightly different variety, which I don't know the fine points of that, but I just brought a leaf from up at the busway to compare to the leaves of my tree. I mean, this leaf on my tree looks maybe a little bit dried up and bumpy since we haven't had much rain. But here, comparing it to a smoother leaf, they look virtually the same to my eye. And you'll notice as we look at the berries on this tree, the berries are the same. So the main difference seems to be in the trunk. And my berries are also in the same stage of ripening. This is partly why they're called June berries. They're all ripening in June. I just pick what's low to the ground that I can easily reach, and the higher berries, I just go ahead and leave for the birds. This tree we planted about 8 years ago, and it has grown a good bit since then. So, one of the things I really like about serviceberries is they're very easy to store and use later. Now, even though I publicize where the berry patch is up on next door, I tend to find there's usually plenty of serviceberries there. So I often have, 5 or 6 of these containers.
Can you show it?
But so when you come home, you you really should wash your berries because there is a busway up there. There are trains up there. So I just pour them into a bowl of water. Usually I would have more than this, but we didn't pick that many today. Now I use a very plain soap. So this is a Dr. Bronner's peppermint soap. And you really want something very plain or a plain dishwashing soap. You don't want any antibacterial, moisturizing, anything like that. So you actually just kind of work up a lather. Wash your berries. Well, usually I'd be doing this all at the kitchen sink. We're using outdoor precautions here due to the virus, and Miss Cece is here. So I'm just going to pour this out here. Then I'll pour them into a bowl to rinse them. So usually I would do this a couple times at the kitchen sink. So get off this excess water. Now you could just use these in your cereal as a smoothie or whatever. Here's a couple of those stems that I say you usually don't want to be on there. But again, if you have a lot of them, what I like to do is freeze them. So just get a cookie sheet or a plate, put some kind of dish towel or paper towels on it, put your berries on there, and kind of roll them around gently to dry them off. But you can see they are a pretty firm berry, so they don't get all smashed. Then you can just put them into a plastic bag, and you could just put this on a plate or a cookie sheet depending on how many you have, and just, you know, make this in a single layer and lay it in your freezer and freeze them just like that. And when you go to use them later, you can take out as many as you need and use them. You don't even have to thaw them. So one of the things I did with some berries I picked today was I made cornmeal muffins with service berries. So anywhere you would use a blueberry, you can just use a service berry instead. I thought it might also be interesting just to see what the inside of a berry looks like. So that one is, so that's, my knife isn't that sharp, but that's more colorful inside than I thought. I thought most of the color was really in the skin. Yep. But another thing you can do, if you find you don't like service berries after you've picked them, these I just threw in the microwave this morning and microwaved them for about 2 minutes. And you can see what a beautiful color there is to it, straining out all this debris. But if you wanted to do some sort of dyeing, natural dyeing, I just have a piece of an old sheet here. You can just stick it in there, and you know, I would let it sit overnight or for as long as you can. Now, since it is a food product, if you're going to let it sit for a long time, you might want to put this in the fridge because it will get moldy, especially on warm weather. So those are some of the many ways, some of the ways I enjoy service berries. I hope you'll enjoy going to the patch and getting outdoors and maybe doing a few fun things this summer in early June with your berries.